Good evening, YouTube. How about Crazy Come Back video? Today I'm just going to talk about one player and one card only. This is one of my favorite little series I do. I call it the Uncommon Common. These are cards, the guys you just find in the common bins, but you know what? They're a little bit better than you thought. I've done a couple before. Talk about players who were better than we thought, and they're actually pretty good players in their heyday, but they're relegated to common box and just gone through and sifted through. We don't think nothing of them. And today's player, his name is Larry Jackson. I'm going to call him the almost legend. He ended his career with 194 wins, so he almost won 200 games. He had almost pitched a perfect game, gave up one hit. He almost won the Cy Young, but he came up just second. So he didn't really accomplish a whole lot. He was always on mediocre teams that never won any pennants, any division titles. He was just on some second-tier teams, but yet he was a good pitcher. He was four-time All-Star or four All-Star seasons. Like back in the early 60s, they had several seasons where they had two All-Star games in one. So if you made two All-Star games in one season, I really count that as one All-Star because basically he had one All-Star season. So I could say he's a four All-Star seasons. This is Larry Jackson's 56 Topps rookie card. He pitched debut with the Cardinals in the mid-50s here, and he pitched through 1968, finishing with the Philadelphia Phillies. In between, he pitched for the Chicago Cubs also. He was dealt to the Cubs prior to the Cardinals becoming pennant winners in the 60s. So he was part of the Cardinal teams in the late 50s and early 60s who were not very good and were switching managers every other year. And early in his career, he was relegated to the bullpen. Started pitching to the bullpen. Each manager had a different idea how to lose Larry Jackson, and he finally became full-time starter several years into his career. Like I said, he won 194 career games. His career WAR was 52, which is pretty phenomenal. Pretty good, not phenomenal, pretty good. His ERA plus is like the 110s, 115, somewhere in there. So he's a very accomplished pitcher. He saw a stat where if you know your baseball history and post integration, that most of the great players, they went up being into black players became the AL, NL players. We're all mostly National League teams. We know of course, Jackie was the first, and Willie Mays and Roberto Clemente, Ernie Banks, Frank Robinson. They all were National League players, and of course, while American League, the Indians and the White Sox were the forefront of players with Doby and Minoso and others. The most notable teams, franchises, like the Red Sox, were the last team to integrate in 1959. And the second last team was my Tigers, and one of the other last teams was Yankees with Elson Howard. So while the American League was slowly taking their sweet old time to integrate it, the best players coming from the National League when winning MVPs in the 50s and early 60s were in the National League. And I saw a stat where Larry Jackson faced 18% of his career batters he faced ended up being future Hall of Famers. So every time he pitched, one in every 4, 5 or so batters he faced ended up being future Hall of Famers. And yet he still was a solid pitcher. 194 wins, 52 career WAR, ERA plus of north of 110. Solid pitcher. It just did anything memorable. He didn't accomplish anything memorable. He just middle of the guy, keep it under the radar. Pitchers that did well, but just didn't do anything phenomenal. I think he ended his career with the same number of wins as like Doc Gooden and David Cohn. We all know what they did, but we'll go by wins. Uh, he did pretty well, and he did his guys 194 wins on some bad and mediocre teams. Never finished first place, and so if he had actually played on like a perennial winner, he might have close to say 210, 220 wins, maybe north of 200 for sure. What if he had like 210 wins and a little better team behind him, a little better ERA? Maybe ERA dropped up, a few points. All of a sudden, it's like, whoa, he can be in discussion of best pitchers not in the Hall of Fame type category. Never know, but he pitched on bad teams, pitched well, didn't do anything memorable, and he gets to get relegated to the common bins. So this is tonight's Uncommon Common star pitcher of the 50s and 60s, Larry Jackson. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a good night.